This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, school success makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a friend out of the great area of DC, our nation's capital, Miss Daniela Anello, who is the current head of school, but soon to be CEO of DC Bilingual up there. And I've known about her for a few years, actually. And so we're finally getting on a podcast together because they got some really cool things that they're doing, some new things that they have started that we're going to also dive into today. But I'm not going to share any of her thunder right now. I'm going to let her do that here in just a little bit. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it off to her to introduce herself. So Daniela, welcome to the podcast today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're going to have a blast today. And so here's what we do before we jump into all the stuff is I always want to ask the guest, hey, if I was to visit you in DC, what would you say, Mitchell, you need to do this and eat this to experience DC? What would you say I need to do?
You have to go to Ben's Chili Bowl, which is, it's on U Street, and they serve these chili, these amazing chili hot dogs with chili on them, and they're messy and tasty and delicious. And they are, I think, the authentic restaurant in DC for I think it's been here the longest time. And a lot of celebrities and presidents go there. And so they have pictures on the wall of all of these famous celebrities that have gone there to eat these sloppy and delicious Ben's Chili Bowl. Very, very good.
Love it. All right. Hot dog, chili dog. And then what am I going to do? What would you say I need to do as well? I'm going to eat the chili dog. And what I need to do?
You have to visit DC Bilingual. That's the best part of DC. So I would ask you to come visit and get a tour and see what our community is all about. And then maybe convince you to move here so that your children can go to school here.
Oh, man. Well, you're going to have to talk to the wife on that one. That's a big convincing to move to DC. But I have visited DC once, and I loved it. I think it was cool to see all the things you learn about your entire life in school, like the Capitol and the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, all these things. You're like, whoa, it's right in front of my eyes. And that was kind of surreal. So I did love visiting DC. I think everybody should visit, obviously, DC at least once, especially if you're an American. So very cool.
Yeah. And you know what? Even if we live in DC, there's no such thing as seeing everything, right? The museums continue to evolve, and there's new exhibits, and the museums are beautiful, and there's so much to learn that you can spend an entire day visiting one museum and not even getting a third of the way through. So It's even for local folks, it's really hard to determine which ones to visit and how long to spend in each, because you can never see everything.
Okay. So I got to visit DC Bilingual with a hot dog and get a chili dog. I mean, that sounds like a good day. All right. I like it. So as we dive into today's episode, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background. And then as that naturally, we'll dive into what is DC Bilingual? How'd you get there? What are you guys doing right now before we kind of jump into the rest? So share your story. Let's hear about it.
Thank you. So I'd like to start by saying that I am a first-generation immigrant from Chile. And my story is very similar to that of many immigrants who come into the country and need to navigate a new life, right? A new language, and familiarizing themselves with how to navigate, how to live in a new place. So I was only 4 years old. And that meant that I came, my older sister, she was 7, I was 4, and my parents, who only spoke Spanish, we came to Astoria, Queens. And it was just this incredible place where there was so much newness. Everything was new. We had new neighbors, and the streets look incredibly different than they did in Chile. And we were alone, but it was also very exciting to be on this adventure. So as a young kid, this idea of the newness of adventure and learning so many, things that I'd never thought I would learn before, and going to school in a public school and meeting so many people from around the world, and I just loved it. So I've always been a very curious kid, and that experience to me was incredibly fun and exciting. And so, having been this first generation immigrant, I decided that one of my passions in life would be to help ensure that all kids, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their language that they may speak at home, um, I want them to feel completely safe, excited, and immersed in getting the best education possible. So I went to school to study teaching. And from there, I did teach in Boston, I taught in New York, and I taught in Washington, D.C. And then in New York, because my teaching degree is from New York, you have 5 years to get a master's degree to continue with that profession. And so I went to Teachers College to get a master's in, I got a master's in I became a literacy specialist. And then that allowed me a chance to consider how to create curriculum, think about assessments that you would use to support the curriculum, and everything that had to do with teaching teachers and coaching and ensuring that the academic program could be really strong for students. So then fast forward, it was really important for me to be in a school community where I could be my full self, where I could bring in my multiple cultures and language and this passion that I have for ensuring that everybody feels valued, seen, welcomed. And so DC Bilingual was the perfect place. So at the time when I started at DC Bilingual was only 5 years old. And it had this beautiful culture and community feel, and everybody was happy. However, the kids that took their first state test didn't do very well. They got a 3% proficiency score in in math, and a 30% proficiency score in reading. And these were kids that had been part of the school community all along. So it was that moment that I was hired to be part of a school turnaround team. And together with the principal who hired me, who I admire dearly, her name is Wanda Perez, she and I formed part of the team, and we brought other amazing school educators that were part of the community in with us to learn how to teach bilingual education in a diverse school setting really, really well, and what systems and processes need to be built and created to ensure that the academic rigor, that the teaching, and that everything we offer at the school is top notch. So it took a lot of blood, sweat, tears to build those systems and structures, and then to see academic gains. And we saw them immediately. We saw that 10-point gains, 13-point gains, and year after year, we've continued to see those gains. So we're feeling really proud of the work that we put in to make the school academic program work.
Awesome. And you've been there how long now?
I just completed my 16th year at DC
Wow.
Bilingual.
So obviously it sounds like you like it a little bit there. You
Love
stayed.
it. I tell people it's my first child. It's because I started working at DC Bilingual before I had my own children. And then I had my own children. And of course they were students at DC Bilingual. And at that point I got to see what it was like to experience the school as a parent and as a school leader. And now my students are alumni, and they still return to do community service and to support as alumni, as many of our alumni students do. But many of our staff have felt very similar to the way that I have felt. And as soon as their children are school age, they also bring their kids to be part of the school community.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. That's awesome. I have been for many years now, definitely over a decade, when I started hearing of bilingual schools just in general, like that was a thing. I was like, oh, I love that. Like, I love that model. I remember there was a kid in my youth group, because I was a youth pastor years ago, where we didn't go to a bilingual school, but she was immersed in some type of program at the school where she did become fluent in Spanish. And so she went like on a mission trip with the church to Mexico. And like, it was just really cool because she learned this thing. And I go, well, that's really, really awesome that you can actually learn that in school. And this is, I grew up in Alaska up there, where it's very, very much English, let's say, that's spoken up there. And so like, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to use it. And then my wife and I, we moved here to South Florida 7 years ago. So very much Spanish speaking all over the place. So you can use it. And so like, we're wanting our 5-year-old to, like, he's learning a little bit. He's not fluent by any means, but he's like learning it because you actually have a chance to use it. And so I feel like that's one of the knocks that I'm bummed about for like America, because I feel like we don't value speaking multiple languages like other countries do. I know lots of people in other countries that speak more than 2 languages. I'm like, man, that's just not a thing, and I wish it was here. So I love that you are making, like, that is a priority. It's a thing that students, I'm assuming, go in there, and then no matter what, probably they're going to be leaving with being bilingual, I'm assuming, correct?
Absolutely. So we encourage families to stick with us. So our children can start as little as 3 years old. And as you know, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, their brains are sponges. They could learn language incredibly well and fast. And so we recommend that families commit to staying with us long term, because then you see the fruits of bilingual education as kids get older. So it takes about 7 years for kids to become super fluent. And therefore, if they start at pre-K3, by the time they leave us, in 5th grade, they're going to be so comfortable and confident in speaking in Spanish, speaking in English, and even in social settings, having friends that they can speak to in either language. So it's a really beautiful thing. And I want to say that although the school's mission from the very beginning stemmed from ensuring that recent immigrants didn't lose their native language and brought their traditions and their culture to the school, and that the culture and traditions of their family lives was fully embraced, and that they could use that to add and enhance their sense of identity. That is still true. And we know that children coming from any of the 8 wards in the District of Washington, D.C. will be and can be successful if they were selected to be part of the school community. So even if they're not speaking Spanish at home, even if they're speaking English or another language at home, we believe that the program is designed to ensure that all kids can leave their time at DC Bilingual feeling incredibly comfortable with speaking both languages, and also being really proud to bring all of themselves into the school community. So we want kids to tell us what they're eating at home, what their favorite recipes are, what their family traditions are. And then we learn about that and incorporate it into their experience that they have at the school. So we have the pleasure, for example, of having our own scratch prep kitchen where we produce food from scratch every day. And that food that is produced goes to feeding students, but also our staff. It's one of our staff, like, most preferred benefits, that they get to eat delicious food that's cooked in-house. So even that, it feels like a home-cooked meal. And the recipes we pick and what we decide to feature every day or every month is something that stems from the kids, and it stems from their families. And so I believe that everything we do is stemming from the kids themselves, so that they can feel very much a part of what's being, provided them with at the school. So we want them to taste foods that they like eating at home. We want them to learn in a way that feels very safe, nurturing, and where they could be their full selves. And that's what we try to do here. So it's not just the language learning, it's also the culture and traditions that get enhanced through language learning.
I love that. So I have this random idea that I don't know if this would even work, but as you're talking about it, going, man, this could be a really big, huge fundraiser for you guys every day. So could you make extra food and sell little packaged lunches to people in the community at like I don't want the kids, people coming into the school for security reasons, of course, but like, could you like take that food and sell it every day as like a fundraiser marketing effort for your school, or would that never be a thing?
So, unfortunately, we have a no food fundraising policy because that stems from our healthy food practice, where we have a policy that ensures we're going to be feeding our staff and feeding our students the most nutritious, well balanced, healthy food. And we had to implement that policy for no food related fundraisers, was because too often they would be like what typical schools may do, like a bake sale, or like, you know, things that would be selling food, but it may not be the healthiest foods. And so I could bring that back to the team, that maybe there could be a clause that as long as the food that's being sold is super healthy, maybe
Mhm.
that could be considered. But the policy was set to prevent the possibility of selling food that was not healthy or not in line with the school's food and wellness policy.
Got it. I'm thinking
But
just taking the food you're serving for lunch and just package it up and sell it to people for 10
that
bucks a pop or something.
that would be awesome.
I
Yes.
love this.
We
So
have
go ahead.
We have a partnership with the Capital Area Food Bank, and they provide us with about 8,000 pounds of fresh fruits, vegetables, and canned goods every month.
Wow.
And we host our own market. And it's a market where anyone in the community, so it could be staff, families, and neighbors in the community, they come and they take as much food as they would like with them at no cost. And
Wow.
that's one of our favorite kind of partnerships that we have, because it really provides great options for food for families who could benefit from having it.
I love that. So, with a couple questions on the bilingual side. So, when kids are coming to a school and they're learning another language, is there a way that you can equip families at home to help them also learn it? But obviously, if they're working full time, they come home, they got hour with the kids or whatever before bed. Is there a way that they can also learn so that the kids can use it outside of school with their families?
So, language acquisition and language learning of a second language, it works best when the native language is really strong. So, actually, families doing a ton of talking, a ton of reading, a ton of, vocabulary exposure in the native language, so in the language that the family feels the most comfortable speaking, is incredibly beneficial for the children's second language acquisition. So the larger their vocabulary is, the larger their knowledge and concepts of print by exposure to books of all types, it will actually help them learn that second language better, because there's going to be a lot of things that transfer from the way we talk about books and handle books and look at pictures and the love of reading, right? Like having all of those kind of behaviors already integrated into the way that children are helps with the second language acquisition, because they're going to know exactly what to expect in a story, right? Of a book that they may be reading in a new language, and how to use context cues when looking at the pictures, and that there's going to be like, you know, a plot and there will be a resolution. And so it's actually incredibly, we tell the families, don't worry about supporting your child with the language that is unfamiliar to the family. Worry about supporting the child with the language that is the native language to the family. And then we've seen it work incredibly well.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. Well, as they're learning languages, you guys are growing. You guys are educating more students. That's all being really, really well done. And I know that people are wanting to learn from you and to like see what is DC Bilingual doing. And so I believe that kind of was a perfect segue into this new thing that you guys launched. I believe if I'm remembering it correctly, with the Escuelita program. And so what exactly is this new program you watched, or launched, and why are you doing it? Why you want to tell people about it?
Thank you so much for asking me about this. This makes me very excited. So when DC Bilingual needed to learn how to become a highly successful school, we went to visit high performing schools that were bilingual and also working in diverse school settings in other places. So we went to California and we visited a ton of schools and we got to see things in practice and we got to meet with the curriculum developers and the coaches and talk to teachers directly. And that was the best learning we had as a team of people working at our school, needing to learn about best practices. So the Escuelita project looks to mimic what worked for us when we were turning our school around and wanting to get very clear systems that we knew could work for improving student outcomes. So we're trying to model that. So what Escuelita does, Escuelita program invites school teams, and that's very important. So picture a school and then picture the team that would be invited to come to the Escuelita program, which would be, let's say, the executive director or the principal and a lead instructional specialist and maybe a teacher. And that could be a team, right? It's a team of people, all with various roles at the school, all incredibly important roles, and all need to work together on designing the systems and structures that they may want to try at their school. And so what we do is we invite teams of different educators from different schools, and everyone's welcome, right? Every type of school. And we dedicate 3 days to learning one particular topic that we deep dive and look at very closely. So for example, we just did a pilot. It was called Teacher Teams. So the first day we learn about the foundational structures that make DC Bilingual operate successfully. So like a little bit of an overview of the school, the history of the school. We ask them to then think about their own school, their own systems, their own structures, their own history. Then we deep dove into co-teaching. We looked at various models for co-teaching, and then we visited classrooms to see the various models of co-teaching in practice so that they could get a whole picture of like, wow, what does strong co-teaching look like? And then they would come back and then they had a panel conversation with the co-teachers that we observed in each classroom where they got to ask specific questions about how they designed their teaching approach to look the way that we saw in action. And then they turn to each other as a team and they have time, dedicated time to work together, think together, and to plan their action plan that they look to take with them back to their schools to implement. So one thing I've learned over the years is that you can't do a copy paste model. You can't go to a school and ask what works for you. Let's copy it and let's paste it in our school. Actually, that's not going to work. What works is the team that comes from the school, and again, the various roles, deciding what elements of highly functioning systems and processes they would like to try at their school, knowing who their students are, knowing who their staff is, knowing what their community is ready for, and designing a plan that's totally catered to the needs of their particular school based on where their school is with that particular topic. And so we had a great amount of success. So each of the 3 days focused on, thinking about the different structures and systems of building strong teams. And they left with a lot of tangible action plans that they all agreed on going and trying and implementing together. And then, of course, having each other hold one another accountable for and seeing how the plan that they designed could actually be implemented and take effect at their schools. So I think the pilot worked really well. And now we are gearing up to try it again with 6 other topics for next school year for a lot more schools with many more teams. And we're excited to give it a shot and see how it goes.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. Love it. I love that you're giving people an opportunity to jump in and to learn new things, because I feel like naturally we like to stay in our own little bubble and we go, you know what, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Or we'll say, which I do say this a lot, and I have to actually try and reframe this, because I'm like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's like, you know what, that might be true. Like, it might not be broke, but there's always a way to improve, and there's always a way to be better. And so it's like, you know what, that's actually not a great, I think, saying anymore to say, because you can find somebody going, you know what, I never thought about it that way, or I never thought about using that technology that way, or whatever it might be. And so I encourage anybody who's listening, if there's like other trainings around you, maybe this is something you want to jump into, but if there's other trainings, please go learn new things. Don't feel content with where you're at in terms of like how you're educating children and how you're doing your school. There's always other ways, other things you can learn to inspire you and to get connected. And obviously Daniela has this program she's getting off the ground and taking off. And it sounds like it's going to be bigger, and it's going to be really, really cool to dive in. And she's just a fun person to hang out with. So you should just come even just to hang out and have a good time, eat some good food.
Exactly.
Is this always going to be in DC, or do you guys plan on traveling this around?
It would be awesome to travel it around. So because it's just starting, we're like testing it out in small bits. However, my vision is to have a way in which we expand this, and there could be elements of this that we go and try at different schools. Like if a school invites us to go and talk about specific topics, like why not, right? We should come and see what's happening. And I was also thinking there could be some specific to the school learning opportunities. So if the school, for example, is a monolingual school and they would like support with considering becoming a bilingual school, then we could take on a project to support them, having that school become our sister school, and having members from our team go to their school, visit, do some rounds of learning and helping with the creation of the plan to then gradually turn that school into a bilingual school. And actually, we have done that already with one particular school in New Orleans. It's Cano, and that's Community Academy of New Orleans. And one of their schools is Esperanza. And they had a large Latino population, and they didn't offer a bilingual program. So a few years ago, they asked if we would become a supporter, a partner to them in helping to turn that one school bilingual. And we have. It was a 3-year partnership to get us there. And they are thriving. They're 50-50 bilingual Spanish-English school. And now the demand for that school is through the roof. They have a huge wait list. It's working. Staff are happy. Families are happy. Students are learning, and they're becoming bilingual. So I consider that a success story. And we could do a lot more of that if there was demand for that.
So let's maybe break this down for a little bit, because I know for our listeners, we have a pretty big makeup of, we got some charter schools, private schools, public schools, but I know we also have some smaller private schools that probably would love to do something like this, but they might only have 150 students or 250 students. And so if this is something that a school's like, man, we would love to offer this, but I don't even know if it's economically available to us to be able to do something like this. What would this look like? So if school's listening and they go, man, do we really want to do this? What is that next step? They hire one teacher that speaks Spanish and they teach a class. Is that as simple as it is? Or is there other things they should be thinking about for doing this?
One of the things that we learned early on is that to teach bilingual education really well, we have to understand language acquisition and what happens in the brain when students learn a new language, or any of us learn a new language. So I would advise, first I would advise having a call and discussing the various phases of the work, because it's a multiple year project, right? And the beginning phase is research on how does language acquisition work? What needs to be true to ensure that kids would be exposed to the right amount of language, because there's different methodologies for the amount of that second language exposure. And it depends on the community that's being served by the school. So there would be a little bit of an analysis or a diagnostic of who are the children that this program would be used for, and what are the resources available for that to be a possibility, and who are the staff who would be involved in learning all of the details that would have to go into ensuring that the program gets designed in the way that would be beneficial for the particular students that are attending the school, and how to do it in a way that the team is committed to continuing to do it long term. Because I know we said this already, but it takes 7 years for kids to be fully bilingual. So that means that whatever we offer them pre-K3 has to continue to be offered to them so that they can see the long-term effects of truly learning two languages.
And then does it make sense to just, I guess, just do, Spanish, English, or is there like, well, depending if you're over here, maybe French, or maybe it's German, or is it
Yes.
typically a Spanish, English? What does that look like?
So that's also the community based approach. So it depends on who we're serving. If there's a large percentage of people speaking a different language that's not Spanish, that should be the language that is considered into the bilingual model for the school. So yes, so recognizing who are the families, what is their native language, or what is their culture, and how do we embed the children and the families into the design of the school program the school chooses to offer.
Okay. You mentioned the 7 years that a student takes to become bilingual and all this. How long would you say if a school's like, we want to do this, from that moment to them actually starting that program and doing it well? Are we talking like they just need a couple months, or they need a couple of years? What does that look like to actually launch something like this inside a school?
We launched it with a school, the school I mentioned in New Orleans, and it was a 3-year partnership. So the first year is a lot of research and understanding what people are signing up for, and then then the next year is the beginning phase of rolling it out based on the population, and then initiation would be the year 3, and then they're off. They have what they need, they have the resources, that they have the understanding, and we check in once in a while. And there's also, with that particular school, because we have now formed such a strong partnership and friendships, that they come anytime they want. Basically, it's an open door policy, and they may get new instructional coaches, new principal, new members of their team that need to come back to DC Bilingual to see it for themselves, because they may have been hired after we did that intensive work. And so for us, it's an open door policy. Like, of course, anyone looking to see best practices can definitely come and see and use it to support their school program. So
Okay.
I feel very committed to making sure that every child at every school is learning in their best ability. And I think it's schools' responsibility to know how to educate every single child holistically, and if they choose so bilingually, in the best way possible. So the Escuelita program looks to ensure that the teams that are designing the experience for kids are working together, thinking together, seeing best practices, and designing the experiences in the most intentional way possible. And
And
also, it's lonely to do the work alone. If the school teams are just working together alone and not leaning on the support of other schools, it can be really lonely. And I think there's something really beautiful about having educators across the nation, across the city, across school types work together and learn from each other and support each other. There's so much to be learned that is already out there. We just need to connect those ties so that we better work together and learn from each other and collaborate.
I agree. If somebody's interested in doing the Escuelita program, what's the best way they can reach out to you or the team or you guys to learn more or to sign
Yes.
up for it?
We have a Escuelita email address. It's brand new, but it's escuelita@dcbilingual.org. I'm also happy to share my email, and that's a similar format. It's D as in Daniela, my last name, which is Anello, Anello, at dcbilingual.org. So if anybody's interested in learning more, feel free to email me.
Love it. I got 2 final questions for you. First one is, if I know you've been doing this now a long time, but maybe from some feedback from the New Orleans school or somebody else, what are some maybe one, two, three things they're like, oh, I wish I'd known that before I started this process? Is there something maybe comes to mind that if a school's thinking about it, be like, hey, here's three things to be thinking about that you might not be thinking about when you're talking about adding this to your school?
So, one of the things I think is very important is to be realistic with when you should expect things to feel good. I think when you're first going through change and you're first learning and you're first trying things, it won't always be easy or feel right, or it takes time to see like the fruits of the systems and things that are being put into practice. So I think that people knowing that when you're committed to being part of a school that needs to go through a transformation or change, don't think of it as a 1 year commitment or a 2 year commitment or even a 3 year commitment. I say see it as all the way through if possible. So when educators commit to being the agents of change in their school settings, consider having in mind a 5 year commitment so that you can stay steady and seeing the benefits of the work that you're doing, before you choose to exit or go to a new school or change your focus. So that longevity is key to success, to having schools see the success.
Love it. All right. Well, last question I got for you, Daniela. So, if you were to share one more piece of advice, just general piece of advice for the other school leaders listening, it could be anything, it doesn't even have to be on the topic that we're talking about, but what would you say that one piece of advice would be?
So I believe that the reason I have been able to be at DC Bilingual for this long is because I see myself in the students that we serve. I started our conversation by sharing that I'm a first generation immigrant. I came as a little girl. I had to navigate the newness of being in the United States, of learning a new language, of navigating a lot of changes. And it was incredibly important for me to join a community where I could show up authentically and really embrace all of the elements of my identity, being an immigrant, speaking Spanish as a native language, having to navigate, the United States as a young child. And so all of those things that are elements of my identity have helped me hone in on my reason, on my why, and why I'm here, and why I care so much about this work. And it aligns with the values and the mission of the school. And so my advice to educators out there is to really do some identity work to fully embrace who you are and all elements of your identity that you feel are the most important to you, and then find a place to be your full self and give your full self.
Love it. All right. Well, Daniela, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's summer technically as we're recording this, summer vacation. So I hope, well, maybe you guys, I don't even know. Are you guys actually on summer vacation yet?
Yeah, school just ended on Friday,
Okay.
but if you came into the building right now, you'd see all of my instructional leaders here and my operations team. Everyone's acting as if it's still a normal work day.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, happy summer vacation then, and I
Thank
hope
you.
it's an awesome one. I hope you get some relaxation, some much needed R&R. And thank you for taking time to speak to our listeners and to share what you guys are up to and what you're doing there in DC Bilingual. And if I am in DC, we're going to go get a hot dog and we're going to go get a
Yes,
tour of DC Bilingual. Okay.
yes, I would love that. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Daniela for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what she's doing over there at DC Bilingual. Wishing them nothing but the best as they continue to grow that school and educate more students in the DC area, as well as inspire other schools to start bilingual programs at their schools. She's awesome, and I'm hoping you guys were able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now, and maybe that is a bilingual program at your school, which I would think would be awesome. So go do it if you can. I think that'll be really, really cool. Before you guys go for today, I want to make sure you know of our 3 free resources here at School Success. And the first one, of course, is the podcast. You're listening to it right now. We drop weekly episodes at the moment every Monday morning. So make sure you are subscribed so you are not missing out on new episodes that we do drop, because The team works really hard on these. We love putting them out there. We want to make sure you guys are learning and knowing about these episodes that are coming out. So make sure you're subscribed. And if you love the content, we, of course, selfishly would love a 5-star review from you. That would mean a lot. And second would be our website, 𝑠choolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner, there is a button called School Success Report. That is our weekly newsletter that we send out right to your inbox with different articles our team has either found or written to help you be more successful, learn what's going on in the world of education. So make sure you're getting that in your inbox every single week as well, completely free. And last but not least is our private Facebook community called School Success Makers. It is on Facebook. I'm personally in there. Would love to see you in there as well. You can get to know other school leaders across mainly the country, but I do know there are some international ones in there as well. So totally an international Facebook group for educators. So pretty cool. Community is important. We want to make sure you guys are having community around you, and it's a good place to be. So I think that's it. I'll mention this real quick. If you guys ever have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas for the podcast or for us here at School Success, you can reach out to us via our website. There's a contact form there, and our email's on there as well for, I think it's hello@schoolsuccessmakers.com. So if you have any of those, we'd love feedback from the podcast or anything that we're doing. That mean a lot to us. Other than that, we will be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.